Building. On hold. Cancel.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Ready and waiting. Affirmative. Vehicle report knowledge.
Base under attack. Unit ready.
Waiting.
Unit
Acknowledge.
ready. Structure sold.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Building. Training.
Yeah, time to rock and roll.
Reporting. Acknowledge.
Unit ready. Unit ready. Building.
Reporting. Acknowledge. Report. Knowledge. Affirmative. Reporting. You got it. Engineering.
Yes, sir. Time to rock and roll.
Training. Unit ready. Unit ready. Building.
Reporting. Yes, sir.
Building.
Waiting orders. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting orders.
Unit ready. Training. Building.
Awaiting order. Acknowledge. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Reporting. Acknowledge. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge.
Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Reporting.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Report. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Vehicle
Unit
reporting.
ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Reporting. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Reporting. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Yes, acknowledge. 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 Vehicle acknowledge. Affirmative. Waiting order. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Report. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Report. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Wait. Acknowledge. Report. Affirmative. Waiting order. Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Base under attack.
Affirmative. Waiting. Got yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Vehicle acknowledge. Affirmative. Wait. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Report. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Report. Affirmative. Vehicle acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, acknowledge. Engineering sensitive. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative.
New construction.
Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Unit
Yes,
lost.
affirmative. Vehicle acknowledge.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Come on.
Primary building.
Awaiting
set.
order. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Engineering. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative.
New
Yes,
construction options. Unit lost. Building.
yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building. Primary building set. Unit ready.
Awaiting order.
Building. Unit ready. Training. Unit lost. Unit ready.
Waiting order. Engineering. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Got it. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Time to rock and roll.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Yes,
Insufficient
yes, sir.
funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Structure sold. Unit ready.
Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
You got it. Yes, knowledge. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Base under attack.
Reporting. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Yes. Affirmative. Affirmative. Knowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Ready and waiting. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reported. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building.
Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit ready.
Awaiting order. Affirmative. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Yes, affirmative. 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 Knowledge. Vehicle report. Affirmative. Knowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Engineering. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Vehicle. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. 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 Yep. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Waiting order. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Reporting. Acknowledge. Vehicle. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not a problem. Engineering. Systems reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Reporting.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting affirmative. Acknowledge. Vehicle acknowledge.
Unit ready.
Vehicle acknowledge. Affirmative. Engineering. Affirmative. Waiting order.
Building.
Reporting.
New construction
Affirmative.
options.
Reporting. Reporting. Affirmative.
I'm a mechanical. I'm a
Reporting.
mechanical.
Ready.
I'm a mechanical man.
Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Acknowledge.
Building. Training. Primary building set. Construction complete. Cannot control unit. Building.
Yes, sir. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Primary building set. Construction complete. Building. Construction complete. Building.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
On hold. Unable to comply. Building in progress. Building.
Yes, sir. Waiting order. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Waiting order. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Waiting order. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Insufficient funds.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Building.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete.
Acknowledged. Reporting. Yes, acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Building.
Waiting. Affirmative.
Structure sold.
Waiting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Vehicle. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Primary building set.
Yes, sir.
Training.
Acknowledged. Awaiting knowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders.
Construction completed. Cannot patrol here.
Yes, sir.
Building. Building.
Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Knowledge. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledge.
Insufficient funds.
Waiting order. Waiting order. Acknowledge. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Structure sold. Unit ready.
Reporting. Negative. Affirmative. Knowledge.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledge. I hear you. Yes, sir.
Construction complete. Unit ready.
Acknowledge.
Building.
Waiting orders. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Awaiting order. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Awaiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Affirmative. Awaiting reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building. On hold. Cancelled.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Waiting order. Affirmative. Waiting order.
Unit
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Reporting.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Waiting order. Waiting order. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unit
Reporting.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Waiting order. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Structure
Waiting
sold.
order. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Awaiting orders. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Base under attack.
Report
Unit
acknowledged.
lost. Unit ready.
Vehicle. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. Awaiting orders. Report. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Roger.
Building. Unit ready. Structure
Yes, sir.
sold.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Right away, sir. Affirmative. Right away, sir. Roger. Right away, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Right away, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Ready. Right away. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Waiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Construction complete. Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Vehicle. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Yes, acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting on. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting.
Unit
Yes,
ready.
acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. I'll get my range.
Unit ready. Primary building set. Training. Building. Select target. Unit
Yes,
ready.
sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Waiting orders.
ready.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Base
Acknowledged.
attack. Building.
Waiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit lost. Unit
Waiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
I'll get my range.
Waiting orders. Affirmative.
building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Huh? Negative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Waiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Reporting. Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle. Affirmative. 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 Yes, acknowledged. Yes, affirmative. 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 Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Yes,
Unit
affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Vehicle affirmative. Waiting. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Building. Building. Base under attack. On hold. Building. Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit
Waiting,
ready.
Roger. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Waiting orders. Affirmative. Knowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge. Yes, acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Waiting.
Unit
Acknowledge.
lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. 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 Waiting orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Waiting order. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Roger. Yes, affirmative. Report. Acknowledge.
Building.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Unit lost. Unit ready. Training.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledge.
ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Report. Got it. Roger. Vehicle. Acknowledge. Vehicle. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Training.
Report. Acknowledge. Yes. Acknowledge.
Unit
Yes.
ready.
Acknowledge. Waiting order. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Vehicle reporting.
Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Waiting orders.
Waiting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Yes. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Engineering affirmative.
Training.
Affirmative. 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 Acknowledge.
Unit ready.
Vehicle. Acknowledge. 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 Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Base under
Yes, sir.
attack.
Acknowledge.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, acknowledge. Acknowledge. Awaiting order. Yes, sir.
Affirmative. 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 Affirmative.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Awaiting order.
Acknowledge.
Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting.
Vehicle
Affirmative.
reporting. Waiting orders.
Affirmative. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Awaiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. 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 Knowledge. Affirmative. Knowledge. 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 Affirmative. 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 Knowledge. Knowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, affirmative. Acknowledge.
Reporting.
Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Vehicle.
Affirmative.
Reporting.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes,
Affirmative. Waiting order. Vehicle reporting.
affirmative. Affirmative. Waiting. Affirmative.
Waiting order. Knowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Knowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge.
Mission accomplished.